Financial Services. We're here for you to help you make your dreams come true. Whether your needs are big or small, we'll support you with them all. TDC Financial Services. We are strong. TDC Financial Services. This is where you belong.
TDC Financial Services, where money is made easy.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go
Good morning, St Kitts and Nevis. Yes, I finally got it right. And welcome to another edition of Inside the News. Yes, it's Saturday morning for all of you who are cleaning. And in the sound of my voice, good morning. I'm Jermaine Abel in again today. And we are going to go inside the news, beyond the headlines, to discuss issues and news impacting you here in St. Kitts and Nevis, regionally and internationally. Yes, we had another busy news week, another busy news cycle, where a number of major issues were brought to light and have implications for us here in St. Kitts and Nevis. And these are just some of what transpired this week. You know, I like to give you guys, I like to start with some of the major issues that impact us here in St. Kitts and even some of the major issues making news across the world. As we saw this week, the resolution on salary increases for government ministers. Yes, we also saw 250 plus CFBC graduates passing out this week, successfully completing their studies at the Clarence Fitzroy Bryant College. Yes, we also had the LIDC, the announcement that the Leeward Islands debating competition will be held here in St. Kitts and Nevis at the Marriott Resort starting next week. In the region, one of the big issues that's impacting the region is the issue of the oil spill in Tobago. I have a vessel destined for Guyana actually had a little mishap there off Tobago, and there's a significant oil spill, and that has been impacting that territory's waterways and fishing stream for the last 3 weeks thereabout. And fishermen down there have been complaining about that specifically. You know, I saw a report from our colleagues in Trinidad, CNC3, and there was a fisherman who actually was in tears. Yeah, he was in tears there because it's impacting his livelihood. His fishing vessel actually um, was actually damaged as a result of the oil spill, and they were removing it from the sea. So he was in tears because he did not know what was his next move. Yes, the oil spill, even though it was off Tobago, has actually reached the island of Grenada. So there's some concern that if they don't get a handle on that, it can spread a little bit throughout the region, somewhere thereabouts. So there's that concern. SEDEMA has acknowledged, the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, that they are monitoring the situation and ready and able to assist. Yeah, they said they're ready and able to assist. We also had this week the 100 days countdown to the ICC T20 World Cup in the Caribbean and the United States. Yes, for all you cricket lovers, the countdown is on to the one of the largest World Cups in cricketing history. It's going to be played in the Caribbean, 6 territories, and also in the United States at 3 different venues. Well, that's part of it. And on the international stage, we saw what we got the reports of Trump and the ongoing war, and the issue between the United States and the developed world against Russia. Since the death of Alexei Navalny, the wars continue. Yes, the wars are continuing down there, and it continues to have an implication. It continues to have implications for us here in St Kitts and Nevis. So it's a lot that we are keeping abreast of, and those were just some of what made the news this week here in St Kitts and Nevis. One of the issues that actually made the news, and you heard a bit of it, was the issue of the passport. A resident or someone who, according to media reports, traveled to the United Kingdom on a St. Kitts and Nevis passport and was caught up in a Bitcoin scandal or scheme over there, was allegedly caught up in that, and the matter is currently before the court, and that has thrown St. Kitts and Nevis's citizenship by investment program again up in the air, and a lot of questions are being asked about that program. So that person is allegedly on the run and so forth. So, our media colleagues in the United Kingdom, they've been publishing the reports so far, and we'll keep abreast on that. But this morning, we are going to dive into something that was being discussed yesterday, and we're going to go a little bit deeper. I just want to start out by saying that you may not necessarily agree with what every administration says or does, but please be mindful and respectful of the individual and the position within government that they hold. You may not like them, but at the end of the day, respect the office that they hold. Because at the end of the day, again, that is where we, as people in St. Kitts and Nevis, that's where we go to the polls to vote and elect officials. So we're going to dive again into the issue that we were discussing yesterday, because the Attorney General has, in a social media post that was brought to my attention this morning, sought to explain exactly what it is the resolution will be doing. And then we're going to hear a bit more from what he said yesterday on the partner program, Island Tea, where he had that discussion yesterday with the folks there, just to give them a little bit of an insight, an update, because there was some misinformation being peddled, and there were some issues that needed clarification for the public. So we're going to hear a bit more from the Attorney General, but I want to, just want to read exactly what he said in terms of explaining what the resolution meant. Yes. and what exactly it is will be going forward. So this is what it says, his post. Salary Review Resolution. The National Assembly approved the recommendations of the Statutory Salaries Review Commission, who issued a report in 2019 recommending an average of 25% in adjustments to the salaries of the Governor General, members of Parliament, including the Speaker of the House, the Deputy Speaker of the House, Prime Minister, Attorney General, Ministers of Government, and the Leader of the Opposition. Since the last salary adjustments in 2005, 19 years ago, a few anomalies have arisen. Public servants received aggregate salary increases of 41% in that period, while ministers of government received no salary increases. In 2024, senior public servants, including permanent secretaries and some directors, are paid a higher salary than the ministers they report to. The salary of the financial secretary, one of the most senior public servants, is 24% higher than that of the minister. Given the resolution's passage effective March 1st, 2024, the salary of the Prime Minister will be EC $15,000 per month, or US $5,555. Ministers will be receiving $11,600 per month, or US $4,296, and Attorney General EC $12,300 per month, or US $4,555. Nightly travel subsistence remains the same, that is, EC $100 in the OECS territories and US $100 per day outside the OECS as recommended in the 2019 Salaries Review Report. So that was the Attorney General there giving an explanation in terms of what actually transpired and what the exact salary figures will be. Some of what has been circulating apparently was a bit of what was recommended but not necessarily adopted, and that was put out by the St Kitts and Nevis Information Service. So, but the contextualized aspect of it was missing from that graphic that was put out there. So yes, that is where we will begin the discussion today. Let's go beyond the headlines today. I know we started the discussion yesterday. A lot of people went down the political road and so forth. But let's rationalize the situation today. Have an actual conversation. What does this mean for the ordinary man on the street? What does this mean for you and me here in St. Kitts and Nevis? Let's go beyond the headlines to actually be able to make sense of this particular announcement by the Attorney General, because like I said before, this was an inevitable position to be taken. It was who specifically would bite the bullet first to table this resolution. We can all criticize, but it was actually coming on stream, regardless of if this is the correct time or it was going to come later down the road. The Attorney General and the government decided to table it now, and he gave his reasons why he decided to do that. So let's have that discussion as we continue here on Inside the News. But before that, let's acknowledge our partners, TDC, Caribou Brewery, and then we'll come right back and continue with more Inside the News.
This February, embark on a love affair with the road. TDC Financial Services presents Love Affair Car Loan Special. Fall in love with your dream car with loan terms up to 8 years, as low as 4.99% interest rate. And here's the sweet part. Enjoy the first 3 months with absolutely no repayments. Turn your dream car into reality with TDC Financial Services Love Affair Car Loan Special. Visit our branch on Central Street in St Kitts or Main Street, Charlestown, Nevis, or call us at TDC Financial Services today. Live the love affair with your new wheels with TDC Financial Services.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go
And we are back here on Inside the News. I'm German Abel sitting in today. Yes, and we are going to continue to have the discussion about the salary, the proposed salary. Well, I propose it's actually going to pass. The salary increases that the ministers will be getting beginning the 1st of March or next week, Friday. And we are back, and we have a caller on the line. Caller, good morning.
Good morning, Brother Abel. How are you doing?
I am well. How are you?
I'm giving God thanks, man. I heard the rain. You know, we need the rain, eh?
Well, I got wet, actually, coming in, because it came out of nowhere.
They won't have to sing this song when you take a bath. So the Lord intervened and intercepted you, you know what I mean?
Yes.
The Lord don't know when you want to cool down, you know.
But the thing is...
And don't believe the thing about you get wet, you get cold. That's not true.
Well, you know, it has actually been cold for the last 2 days, because where I live. And then there was football last evening as well. So
all of you are Abel friend. If he tell you he does get a cold, bad science. Anyway, good morning to all the listeners at home and abroad. Let me first start by sending condolences to my aunt, Kathleen Osborne, of New Road Housing Development. She is the wife of my uncle, Earl Osborne, my father's brother. So condolence to my aunt-in-law, all her family, all the Osbornes at home and abroad. Condolences. Now, I don't want to go over the salary thing again. I gave my position, and it was based on the timing, you understand? And the economic situation of the country. That is my position. They are entitled to it, but the problem is when and under what condition. Now, let me get to this thing with the due diligence. And my question is, at what point do we remain responsible for the actions of persons who would have passed the due diligence test? Because
Well-
as I think you know,
Well, actually,
wait,
go ahead.
when somebody, give me a chance, when somebody apply for citizenship, as far as I know, the names are sent to Interpol, to the UK, to the USA, so they would have had time to scrutinize the person. And if they had any kind of reservation, they should have expressed it. So we give them the passport, and after they get it, they reveal the true self or whatever. Are we still responsible for them? What do you think?
Well, you actually raised a valid point, and that was my next topic of discussion, because the Attorney General recently spoke about a particular issue that's going to be, well, a particular initiative that's going to be launched, which is the CIDD. And in the clip I'm going to play, he was speaking with Freedom FM, but you've raised a valid concern, because it appears as though most of the people who are caught in this issue of wrongdoings on the international stage and who are economic citizens of St Kitts and Nevis actually commit these offenses after the fact.
That is it. You know, like even this case in the U.S. with Biden's son and Trump's children. I mean, I always object. The law says at 18. Well, so 18 in St. Kitts, eh? At 18, you are considered an adult. You're feeding them, you're clothing them, you send them CFBC. And they're over 18, you cannot see the report unless the child agrees. You have, according to the law, they're adults. But if they're adults, why are we ascribing their misbehavior, whatever, to the parents? I mean, I don't think it is right. So our CBI should not be blamed if this person had passed that kind of scrutiny.
Okay, so what? Okay, let's dissect this now. So you're basically saying that a person should not, our CBI program should not necessarily take responsibility for the person, right? What position or what changes can we make now as citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis, or as the authorities in Bastille, to clamp down on issues like these? Because one, our passport and the passport in St. Kitts and Nevis continues to be flagged, one, and two, our economic viability as a country is heavily dependent on this. So what more can we do as a country, to deal with this problem?
I don't really know, because nobody knows nobody heart, eh? And as I said, we need to ask the question, at what point, how long ago did she acquire this thing? You follow what I'm saying?
Well,
because I think it's only 2015 they started to.
Well, based on the report that I saw, she allegedly, well, we don't know if it's a she or he, the individual allegedly, based on the reports, traveled on the passport in 2017.
She didn't get it yet.
Miss Henry, I don't know if it's a male or a female. The individual traveled on a passport in 2017, allegedly. That's what the media reports said.
All right.
So we don't know when this person got the passport or when.
But those are the questions we need to ask, eh?
It is only because this matter came up in court, and it was revealed in court and court documents, that we actually aware of that the person actually traveled on the passport.
So let me ask you, what do you think we can do?
Well,
I mean, they usually take back the passport, right?
Well, based
but the
on what?
Could take them to court.
Well, based on what the Attorney General is saying in this next clip that I'm going to play, is they've set up a continuing. They're about to launch a new department that will be liaising with as a broker between Bastille and international law enforcement agencies, that will report to both sides, and based on their investigations, they'll make recommendations to the government on whether or not to revoke.
That's what I just said. According, if I understand, I think it has already been established when they had to revise it in 2015. I remember the U.S. were threatening to shut it down, and the U.K. and Europe.
You're talking about...
So they gave them access, because they were saying before, we don't have to give it to nobody. Anyway, they went ahead and they gave him access. So I am saying if you have access to the person's information before they approve,
Well,
they had to say, look, that I think a
yes.
person, you can go ahead. So why you putting it on us now?
Yeah, but what this CIDD agency
So
will
what
be
can
doing?
we do? Take back the passport?
Well, that is the recommendation coming from.
Yeah, but they could sue you,
Yeah, but at the same time, there are certain rules and regulations that must be followed. So, based on the recommendations from this agency, a decision will be made on whether or not to revoke the citizenship, just take back the passport. That's up to them to make that determination. But the bottom
You don't
line
think that is also tricky?
It is.
Yeah, because I'll take you. I could just imagine you have one, right?
No, I don't.
Well, you're entitled to one. You're here long enough. Your carry come 14 years, eh?
Miss
Or you get a little one
that's
of those.
another discussion, but let's continue.
Ministers we have there. Anyway, I was joking. No, but seriously, I don't think it is right. We could denounce them, but the truth is, suppose our property, what are you going to do? They can't come back to get the property? They can't have access back to their country? You can't do no American citizens, you know? You know that? Look, the one who killed in Anguilla. Really. And we need to impress upon our people the impact of their behavior on the whole country is more than just the citizenship investment. Maybe they need to put that part in, Try to the new citizens or those who want to be. Look, should this thing come up, it is going to ruin us. And if you're serious about becoming a citizen, you should be concerned about the country's welfare. That kind of speech, that kind of thing. But to me, I get tired of them blaming us for people who they already passed. That is my point. You passed them already. Because you could never tell what people will do. Believe me, you will never. The only person who know what man will do is God. You're married to somebody and then and next thing you know, you want to know if it's a demon. Really, she's a Russian, right?
No, she's not.
A Chinese?
Again, the person, I don't know if it's a he or she, Miss Henry.
Well, it doesn't matter.
But the person is allegedly from China. That's the most I can say.
Maybe we don't follow our... I want them to know where our people are. All of these who have these citizenship, these new passport. Do we have any way of keeping a tab on them? Not inspecting their life, but try and look them up. Because is every excuse they're using to shut it down? You don't think so?
Well, I can only go based on the reports, and
I know, but watch me. You must have an opinion. Don't give me that.
No, but what I'm saying is, if the EU is telling you, hey, be careful with whom you put into the program.
I understand that.
But at the same time, the other side to the argument is we can't necessarily, and you're rightly pointing out, we can't necessarily hold the actions or know what these people will be doing.
They already passed
the due diligence.
Yeah. If they pass it this week and next week, then you say, well, maybe they really wasn't properly scrutinized because in some cases, it has been shown in the past where people intervene.
But Miss Henry, there's a ticklish aspect of this particular individual, which again is raising more questions.
But you can't do it unless they're doing something, or you get some report that they might be.
But Miss Henry, again, because I'm not in court and because we're not in court, we can only depend on what, and we haven't seen the full. I know,
but we get all kind of story because there have been cases where people were turned down by the citizenship unit and were actually given citizenship on the recommendation of somebody else. Now, if this is one of the cases, then we take the blame. But if they went through the whole scrutiny thing, we have to learn to speak up, eh? We have to learn to speak up. if that is the fact, say, look, when we admitted her into the program, she had passed.
Okay, so
we had submitted the names to you.
Okay, so hold on, Miss Henry. So I'm just gonna read an excerpt from.
You want me to hang up?
Well, you can, but I'll just read an excerpt.
I'll hang up, so
all right.
So other who won't call. I'll hang up and listen on the radio.
Yeah. So, this is from a Sky News report published recently, and they're covering this supposed Bitcoin allegation in the Southwark Crown Court in the UK, more specifically in England. So this is an excerpt from just a little piece. Wang told the jury, "I have no idea where she is," quote unquote, after Quine, excuse my Chinese, who came to the UK using the false identity of Yadi Zhang on a St Kitts and Nevis passport, vanished a day before she was due to be interviewed by the police on September 1st, 2020. Right. So the individual traveled on the passport, allegedly, and supposedly used and allegedly used a fake identity on that St Kitts and Nevis passport, which again is raising more red flags within the St Kitts and Nevis CBI program. So yes, and Miss Henry just raised a valid question there. What do we do? How do we treat this, and how do international partners who are criticizing the CBI programs across the region take this, when in fact many of the alleged or the people who are allegedly carrying out the criminal acts or so forth actually pass the due diligence process and then are flagged in the system? We go back to the phone line. Caller, good morning.
Good morning, Abel.
Morning.
Now, I'm here driving, Abel, and I have to pull over because I heard what Mrs. Henry said. Now, she mentioned the killing in Anguilla, and as I can recall, the couple was pleading for Donald Trump to intervene for the murders that they committed in Anguilla. Now, you know, we have had a taximan being, I think was a tourist spit on him over at Port Zante. We have had a police officer being kicked off at a hotel here. Mrs. Henry is saying that we need to speak up. We need to speak up, Abel. What gave European Union the right? They have implemented their system on the world. What does that say to us, Abel? We are the majority. We need to look within ourselves. What am I talking about, Abel? I'm talking about the continent of Africa. Because in every sphere, they need us. We don't need them. And that is why they are feeding off of our energy. They are feeding off of our energies in every sphere, Abel. Economics, Christianity, everything. Even in their God that they gave us, because their God is a God of a devil. Make no mistake about it, Abel. Once you recognize the lies, it will only expose you to the truth, Abel. Let me repeat this. Once you recognize the lies, it will expose you to the truth. We have to look within ourselves, because we as a collective, we can cripple their misery.
But Carlo, as you mentioned that, right? That they're dependent on us. Equally, we are dependent on them. Let's take into account, for example, we are, And I'm talking about St Kitts and Nevis and some OECS territories that offer CBI programs. Our biggest revenue earner is the CBI program. We get roughly 40 to about 60% of the revenues from that program. That is dependent on us having visa-free access to these places. Equally, they have a right to protect their citizens, because what they've been saying is, and this is what came out of the Dominica case, that if I flag Mr. Abel using let's say a Qatari passport, but then Mr. Abel comes to St. Kitts and gets a passport, I know him as being Qatari, but then he's the holder of a St. Kitts and Nevis passport. That then basically circumvents him getting a visa or requiring a visa, and he gets a St. Kitts passport, so he just equally flies through the process. So they're basically saying this is what it is. And I understand your argument as well, right, that they impose themselves upon us. But we also have to look at that narrative as well.
Abel, you know, I've said before, during COVID and all that happened, we as Africans globally need to create our own edifice of power, autonomy, and strength. Now, Africa as a continent that the world needs does not manufacture. They are being exploited for the resources. Now, look at Europeans and Americans. They can travel the planet without a visa. The earth belongs to them. So in speaking out, we have to be firm in our speeches. We have to let them know that we recognize the system. But the system cannot continue. All that we believe was a lie. And like I said, Abel, if you recognize the lie, it will only expose the truth. And the duality that we have, well, on a spiritual level, Abel, again I say, they are the devil and we are the gods. Because look at their footprints on this planet, Abel. They create chaos in order for them to maintain rule. They put sanctions. I am saying let us collect ourselves together as Africans, because it all began there. And we are the majority. Why should we be ruled by the minority? We have to look within ourselves. They are feeding on our energy, Abel. They are so feeding on our energy. And I am... Now, Abel, this is not about hate, because hate is not within me towards them.
But equally, right,
but
Carlo?
look how the damage, look how the trauma have put us
but
now.
Carlo,
we are, yeah.
as you said that, right, and we are in the majority and they're in the minority, equally, we cannot seemingly bridge the gap between the Caribbean and Africa.
Abel,
we have
I
issues,
disagree.
right?
I disagree, Abel. I so disagree with that. You know why? We had an inaugural flight. Yes, the system that was imposed, like someone would say, the bee that stung the continent is stinging us here in the diaspora as well. Because we had an inaugural flight that came out of Lagos, I think was 2023 or 2022, late 2022. And the system, the question is next to us, what is causing Africans to want to leave Africa to perish in the Atlantic Ocean and in the Mediterranean Sea? Is the system that they impose on us.
Yes, I understand that.
Because they want us to not to connect to the continent, and at the same time they are there.
Yeah, but
look
equally,
at America
right?
today saying that the only way to develop the continent is by military drones, military base in Africa. Like, really?
Yeah, but
and
Carlo,
the leaders are buying into it.
But Carlo, we in the Caribbean have been trying, and there are efforts by some territories to bridge the gap and create that avenue between Africa and the Caribbean, and we still cannot, in 2024, find a way to get Africa and the Caribbean to work hand in hand. There's this quote-unquote xenophobia by some territories in the Caribbean when it comes to people coming out of the African continent. The xenophobia is still there.
Well, Abel, I'm going to finish now, but let me say this quickly. 1884, it took a few men in Berlin to cut up our continent, and this is where they start this I don't even know what to refer to it, but you know what I'm talking about. And today, look at our prime minister and other prime ministers in the Caribbean. Everything that is Europeans, they're signing on to. I mean, like, Abel, thank you for hearing me.
Thanks, caller. Yes, so, just engaging with the callers here. He's giving a perspective, but I agree that more can be done regarding us connecting with Africa. But at the same time, are we really, as people, not the governments, as people, are we really open to bridging that gap between us and Africa? That for me is the question, because if we start down that road, somebody's going to criticize, and then it's going to create another ripple effect where a lot of criticisms will come in. And I go back to the phone lines and hear from this caller. Okay, we missed that caller there. Good morning, caller.
Hey, good morning. I'm back.
Yes.
Now you said that she used false
Allegedly
name.
used that. That's what the report said.
So how did she get to alter our passport?
I don't think she altered the passport. I can only think, but that's what the report is suggesting in that particular paragraph there.
Because I said she used false identification.
The report, the paragraph says the individual who came to the UK using the false identity, and the name was mentioned on a St Kitts and Nevis passport. So I'm under the impression that the name was on the passport. So I don't, because you cannot necessarily alter a passport without immigration or any of the authorities noticing the alterations on it. So it would be whatever documentation was probably submitted, allegedly, is where the problem came about.
Well, we have the capability to check that.
Yes.
But I said that there is some company in Canada that prints them or publish them or whatever. Now, to my good friend, have you been following the African Union Congress?
I have not been following much international news other than the major developments that we've all been following as of late.
What I do, I would use YouTube to play the videos. And I would suggest to my good friend, Journey, to go and listen to the videos where he will hear the African leaders speaking and get to understand where they're heading and where they're going. Because a lot of us fantasizing. We're fantasizing, There's already some communication between Africa and CARICOM. Isn't that so? They'll sign agreements. The African Think Bank set up in Barbados.
I think what he's saying is, and this is my concern, surrounding the whole connection between Africa and the Caribbean. Like I said, a bridge is being built, not a literal bridge. But we're seeking to build that partnership to connect, because outside of the major players, the Caribbean region and Caribbean leaders have recognized that there's an opportunity being missed in Africa, because if you ask me, Africa has the money there, and there's a potential for because we're basically the diaspora for the African community.
St Kitts and Barbados and some other countries.
Yes, Jamaica as well has been trying to bridge the gap. The issue, though, is even though, and this is what he was talking about, and I was trying to raise the concern, the issue is, even though we have been making strides to connect with Africa, there's a quote-unquote xenophobia from us here in the Caribbean, and not just from leaders. I think it's more
than that, Let me tell you, we got to face it. Let's go back to the same slavery story, right? Whether it is true or not, it was the Africans who captured their fellow Africans and sold them to the Europeans. Now, of course, there will be hurt. There's hurt, Because whenever you think, you say, well, boys, they sell us. Some people don't like to hear that. But that is one of the underlying things. Now, Ghana has apologized, because there has been some apology. Isn't that so?
I'm not sure. I didn't hear much
Yeah,
about
they had
that.
the homecoming and everything. Because there's a recognition and an acceptance of the fact that the Africans sold out their people to us, sold us out. And when you undergo the trauma we went through, on the ship coming down, you go on the plantations and they practically kill you,
Miss
treat you like
Henry,
flies.
But Miss Henry,
There
yes.
is hurt.
Yeah, it does hurt when we sit down and think about it now,
Yes,
right?
so that is what people might consider xenophobia.
But that was many years ago. Fine, this is 2024. At what point do we begin the discussion about building, forgiving, and mending the bridge to get
I
to the
think some
point that we can
countries have
develop
begun.
both
I
the
think,
Caribbean and Africa?
Kenya. But you see, we don't say Africa. Africa is many nations.
Well, that's what I mean.
That's
The
the part of the
continent of
problem,
Africa
too.
in general.
That's part of the problem. Because some of them will do you all nothing, and some of them have the highfalutin idea that, well, since you weren't born on the continent, you are not a true African. We are considered to be Westerners. And then some of us have been unfortunate, if you want to be mixed. So there is rejection on both sides. Now, it can't happen on a national level. It happen like you and I, right? How do you respond to Africans? I met them on courses, and we get along fine. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
So it can happen on a global thing. Bit by bit, as they come and they travel. The leaders, right? Because the leaders
so Ms. Henry, would you say that more education is needed from the authorities in every jurisdiction about Africa itself? Because what I'm getting,
I think it's more interaction, more cultural exchange. Look, we have a school over there for Africans, and some Kittitians are not respectful to them.
So would you say the exposure then?
Yes, that's why I talk about cultural exchange. That's what we need, 'Cause a lot of us hungering for something African. You have African Liberation Day, African put-on functions, and some of us look at them as strange. So we want a new mindset. But I think it starts with the leaders and the education system. And I've always said we should have been trying to integrate the African students into our culture, and we would be exposed to theirs. We keep saying, we want people talking Swahili. A lot of them do. Do we approach them? How do we respond to them? Because there's hurt on our side, whether you want to believe it or not. We have been traumatized, and there are some people who decide, I will never forget them, I don't want to be like them, I don't want them. It is, as I said, some countries in Africa. Ethiopia has invited people to come. Ghana, I think Kenya. One by one, as we develop more diplomatic relations, it should break down that kind of thing. And maybe our leaders should draw it to the attention of the African leaders.
And you're making a point there, right, Ms. Henry,
we were treated by them.
Because you're making a valid point, because why, and the question is going to be asked, why is countries like the United States, the European Union, and China are seeking to now integrate themselves and play a more integral part in the development of Africa? Because,
look, I tell you already, competition, right? China gone in and in the economic ladder, right? The ladder is America consider itself first, then China, then Russia, right? That's how they see it. So they're all jostling for position. So the only place open now, available and free, is Africa. So if China went in and said, all right, they don't want to lend you nothing when Africa needs infrastructure. So unlike the U.S. who want to put on bases, China said, look, I could build you bridges, roads, whatever to connect the capital with the hinterland. And then Russia come in and say, well, boy, I can give you something too. So none of them concerned about Africa, It is everybody trying to gain traction above each other.
Yeah, and
Because
then
at
now,
some point, people say, well, who is going to be the world leading economic?
and then now, Miss
Yeah.
Henry, as well, you have the development of the BRICS organization, which is, constitute Russia, China, South Africa, United Arab Emirates, Brazil, which is now, seeking to develop Africa
They're still jostling.
as well.
Russia make sure you're India, right? India is the next one inside here.
But
I
how,
mean,
but
the
see,
only
I want
person
to
who
drive
has
home
a
this point,
reaching
right,
yet
Miss
is
Henry?
America. So all what America has to do is to try to undermine each one to break it up.
Miss Henry, I want to give you a minute to respond, right? Because I want people to understand. Because like I said, when I'm here, we go beyond the headlines. And for the layman out there, and somebody who's been talking economics for quite some time, Miss Henry, what do you see as being the benefits for St Kitts and Nevis, right? So that the ordinary man in the street can understand. We're not talking the big technical language here, right? I want you to be as blunt and as straightforward as possible. When we talk about connecting with Africa, how does a country like St Kitts and Nevis, a territory, two islands like St Kitts and Nevis, benefit economically, culturally, and you mentioned a bit culturally, but economically, culturally, and as people from partnering with the African continent and maybe some of the developed countries within Africa?
Let me first tell you the truth. I went to India in 1995, right? And most of the program put on by the Commonwealth Secretariat. It was Africa, Asia, and some other place, Caribbean. And, each one had to get up and make presentation. When I got up and I made mine, we are very good economic variables there. The question was asked, what is the size of your population? Now, whenever that comes up, you could feel the mental dismissal. Because, we have 300 million and something million, and you come out with 50,000. You understand what I'm saying? You're not seen as being in the game. As simple as that. So when they add up the whole Caribbean, they can't even get a good 100-something million. You're not seen as being a very powerful, influential actor. And we might ever face it. Just like if you get up today and you go to Africa to live, they come and think, well, where is that? They can't believe nothing, they expect nothing. So I don't know.
Because one of the things I've recognized, right, Miss Henry, as you mentioned that, and I'll just get another 45 seconds before I let you go. What I've recognized is both sides of the Atlantic are not educating their people on each other. That's just it, dear.
That's true.
Right. We are not educating the people about Africa and what Africa is and the type of people in Africa and benefits of African people. Those in Africa are not necessarily relating to the people in the Caribbean, right?
No.
Because they probably see us as being, quote unquote, the developed world that's not really paying them much attention. Our leaders, or some leaders in the Caribbean, are now seeking to bridge the gap, but they're still not necessarily educating the people about Africa. And we as people in some territories have this xenophobic way, and I'm not going to single out any specific territory.
Yeah, I'm looking down on them.
They are not necessarily helping the cause either, because
let me tell you something before you continue, because it's losing me, right? Now, while I was in there, I met this young professor from a university in Kenya. A university professor, young fellow. And, of course, we're talking about where I'm from. There was a fellow from Jamaica. We're the only two Caribbean people there. And so he had no idea where we were. And so I asked him, well, how do you think black people get down in the Caribbean? He didn't know. I said, what? Now, this is a so-called educated person, teaching in a university in Kenya. So the only person he knew was some Trinidadian he met, must be in the UK or someplace. He had no idea. I said, well, how you think black people came outside of Africa? So they themselves have been kept ignorant of our existence. It's only when we show up. You understand what I'm saying? We know more about them than they know about us, you know. Are you aware of that?
And you're underscoring my point there. You know, education is definitely needed there.
How could you be an educator and not know? Well, when you see all these black people in America, where they come from? You go down to Brazil, they're down there. I mean, it is pitiful. I mean, I said, you serious? He said, yeah. You know, the friend invited me to Trinidad. I suppose he had no idea what Trinidad was.
Okay. Artemis, you can definitely call back because we're kind of
I'll call back.
Yeah, but it has to be after the news break because I have to take a
call
break
back.
now. Yes. So, just to underscore the point there in bridging the connection, you know, when I attended an IMF meeting recently, I met a gentleman who was from somewhere in Africa, some country there, and he was surprised at me because he came to me and he was like, which part of Africa are you from? And, you know, I was telling him where I was from and where I'm based and all of that. And he was surprised. And he said, yeah, it's actually good to meet a fellow African from the Caribbean. So I do get Miss Henry's point. But I want to continue the discussion on these and other topics after the break. And we can definitely dive deeper into and further into the discussion surrounding our economic citizenship program while we on here on Inside the News.
If you need insurance, our service is the best. Home motor insurance can give you more for less. Property insurance can save you a lot of stress. At TDC Insurance Company Limited, we care about your investment. Guarantee you peace of mind. The best team in the business. Guarantee you peace of mind. No other company will. Guarantee you peace of mind. Together we'll succeed and guarantee you peace of mind.
TDC Insurance Company Limited, where you get more coverage for less.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
And we are back here on Inside the News. Caller, good morning. Oh, we missed that caller. Yes. So we are discussing a number of topics, but our central focus was yesterday when we continued from. Okay, we'll take this caller. Good morning, caller.
Good day to
Good
you
day,
and
sir.
to our listeners. Greetings once more in Jesus' name. The only Savior is electing us from the sins and from hell, and the second person of the eternal Trinity. Now, first of all, I would like to say that unless we are doing things the Bible way, all of our problems, we will not have any solution to any of them. That doesn't matter. And they would only be getting worse and worse the further we go more and more in disobeying the Bible. And we're only wasting our time in trying to solve our problems independent of the Bible and outside of the Bible. Because there is no answer and there is no solution to our problems other than what is in the Bible. And we only will be making things worse and worse if we don't start to do things according to the Bible, starting first with biblical repentance of our disobedience to the Bible. I know a lot of people like to hear that, and I know a lot of people don't like to hear that. I know that is not what the experts are saying, but the experts, them, are like containers full of holes. They cannot contain any water.
Okay. So yes. Okay. So as you speak to that, right? Connect that to some of the topics that we're discussing this morning.
Yeah. For example, we're talking about CBI program and all those sort of stuff, Africa and all those sort of stuff. But we cannot find any solution and answer to any of our problems without finding our problems, without finding the solution and answers in the Bible. Doesn't matter what issue we come up with. And lastly, I would like to say, at the very best, journey is God is false and contrary to the Bible.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Okay. Okay. So yeah, we'll take a break now, and then on the other side, we will continue with more Inside the News here on WINN FM.
You found the sound. 98.9 WINN FM.
We now bring you the headline news. The headline news is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, The Grange, and Carib Brewery.
When it comes to the important things in life, your health, your education, your choice of a life partner, and of course your insurance provider, only the best will do. Caribbean Alliance Insurance is the only insurance company in the Eastern Caribbean with an A excellent rating. We have a robust 3-tier reinsurance strategy that protects our policyholders from multiple catastrophes, even if they occur in quick succession. We spread our risks over 18 territories, ensuring minimal impact to individual territories when a disaster strikes. We provide an excellent claims experience. Claim settlement is usually between 24 to 48 hours. Our A excellent rating means that you are more secure with us. Contact us for motor, property, marine, public liability, employer's liability, and other policies. Delisle Walwyn, people you can trust. Local agent for Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Tomorrow secured. Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
With the WINN FM Midday News, I am Kevon Brown. Our top stories: St Kitts and Nevis citizen named in £5 billion Bitcoin fraud case in the UK. St Kitts and Nevis AG talks continuing international due diligence unit in response. St. Lucia business leaders meet Guyanese president. In Grenada, newly launched Caribbean Energy Chamber aims to bolster regional energy security and cooperation. Internationally, on the Ukraine war, Russia attacks as Kyiv marks 2 years since Putin's invasion. Now the details. A citizen of St. Kitts and Nevis has been mentioned in a $1.4 billion Bitcoin fraud case in a Southwark Crown courtroom in the United Kingdom. According to international reports on the fraud case, Wen Jian attempted to convert £1.4 billion worth of Bitcoin into cash and property, including watches worth around £49,000 and £70,000, to help launder the proceeds of a £5 billion or $6.3 billion fraud, which was perpetrated in China, prosecutors told a London courtroom on February 19th. Jian was an employee of the mastermind behind the financial fraud case and is currently on trial for helping her employer clean the alleged laundered funds. Jian's employer, the woman she helped, was Zhang Yadi, a holder of a St. Kitts and Nevis passport whose real name is Kiang Zimin. UK prosecutor Gillian Jones said the fraud was orchestrated by Yadi Zimin, who is named on the indictment as the beneficiary of the alleged £5 billion money laundering scheme. Wen Jian is charged with helping to hide the funds, alleged to have been stolen from almost 130,000 Chinese investors by fraudulent schemes between 2014 and 2017. Zhang, the orchestrator, fled to Britain under a false identity in 2017 after Chinese authorities began investigating the scheme and tried to convert the Bitcoin back into cash or property, jewelry, and other high-value items, according to the UK prosecutor. St. Kitts and Nevis Attorney General Garth Wilkin, in speaking with Freedom FM, highlighted that the national security apparatus of the Federation is in full effect and is compliant with any international body investigating any alleged crime of a holder of St. Kitts and Nevis citizenship.
What I can tell you is that the national security apparatus has a system when notification is received of incidents like this. The St. Kitts and Nevis citizen, their passport can either be revoked and potentially a process can be started which could lead to the revocation of that person's citizenship. This has become an important international issue.
The AG did not directly address the fake identity situation, but he spoke of the soon-to-be-launched Continuing International Due Diligence Unit, CID, which will work with international law enforcement on cases involving St. Kitts and Nevis citizens alleged to have committed a crime.
The ministry has set up a Continuing International Due Diligence Unit, CID unit, which is going to be launched very soon, within the next few weeks, and will be led by a senior Kittitian law enforcement professional. And the purpose of that unit is to liaise with international organizations like Interpol, the FBI, CIA, etc., to be the channel for any information about St. Kitts and Nevis citizens living abroad who are alleged to commit any form of crime, whether it be local crimes in their particular country of residence or international monetary crimes, wherever that person is located. And then a investigation is conducted, and if there's the need for the CID unit to recommend to the Prime Minister that a person's passport should be revoked or the process should be started for that person's citizenship to be revoked, the CID unit will make that recommendation.
The CID unit is another security measure for the Citizenship by Investment program, ensuring that all who receive citizenship through the program are global law-abiding citizens.
If there are persons who obtain citizenship by way of the CBI program, we want to ensure that they continue to be persons of integrity and persons who abide by the law in the international community, because they go through very strong due diligence checks in the application process. And this Continuing International Due Diligence Unit will make sure that they have not strayed from their good reputation that they had when they applied and were successful in their application by way of the Citizenship by Investment Program. So that is how that structure works, and the Ministry of National Security keeps its ear to the international community to ensure that bad actors are not allowed to travel on St Kitts and Nevis passports.
The perpetrator of the £5 billion Bitcoin fraud scheme, Zhang Yadi's whereabouts are unknown currently, when Jian's trial is expected to conclude in March. In regional news, St. Lucia business leaders meet Guyanese president, DBS St. Lucia reports.
A broad cross-section of St. Lucia's business community turned out for the special luncheon of the St. Lucia Chamber of Commerce, Industry and Agriculture on Wednesday. The event presented a unique opportunity for networking, learning and fostering business connections between St. Lucia and Guyana. In his remarks, Chamber President Ross Gardner highlighted that Guyana has the fastest growing economy within the region, and with that, numerous opportunities for mutually beneficial relationships between the two economies. The St. Lucian private sector, he says, is interested and ready to do more with its CARICOM counterpart.
At our venerable body's 139th annual general meeting last November, held under the leitmotif of the driving force for sustainable business and community prosperity for St. Lucia, we had deliberate engagement with our trading partners from Mexico and Brazil. A rapidly transforming global economy has dictated that it is no longer business as usual. Our members must continually seek new opportunities to hone their competitive advantage and advance their value proposition. It is with this focus on community prosperity that we are pleased that His Excellency Dr. Muhammad Ali has agreed to present to us on opportunities to do business with Guyana. The government of St. Lucia has organized a number of trade missions to Guyana, and it is now timely for the business community to take decisive steps to solidify and strengthen business relations between Guyana and St. Lucia.
Over the past 5 years, Guyana's economy has grown 4 times its previous size, transforming from one of the poorest performing economies in the region to the fastest growing economy in the world. In 2023, the country's oil wells generated revenue of $1.6 billion for the government. However, despite the prosperity of the oil and gas industry, President Dr. Muhammad Irfan Ali says that Guyana's story will not be solely defined by this sector. Instead, he aims to develop a diversified economy that ensures sustainable and resilient economic growth and development for the country.
In doing so, we are very focused on a few things. One, we want to have one of the most advanced human resource capacity and capability to function in all aspects of the new global economy. We want to have a country that is in a lead position internationally on climate change. We are already there on forests. There is no conversation on forests without Guyana at the table. And we want to have the lead pole position on food security. Outside of that, we believe that we can play an important role in global energy security and also being a hub for regional energy security.
Noting the tremendous potential for growth in traditional sectors like fishing, forestry, and agriculture, the Guyanese president highlighted that he is placing heavy concentration on these economic sectors while also expanding others like the service industry. Guyana, he says, is expanding its infrastructure to position the country to support this comprehensive development plan. He outlined how St. Lucian business people can be part of Guyana's growth and success.
Right now, we are very, very short on labor. So we are working on bringing new labor, that will be foreign labor, into the system. We have to capitalize fully on the regional labor. And then we have the huge diaspora that I think will return in a very, very strong way. And there's a number of reasons why I think so. Because if you look at the skill set for persons in the diaspora who left, you have a lot of teachers, nurses, and so on. A lot of skilled persons, machinists, and so on. So the growth in emoluments and the growth in the overall benefits, the benefit stream of these categories of employees will be so strong that it will be highly competitive when compared to anywhere else in the region and further afield. So there will be a great incentive to be back home working in an environment.
Local business leaders were also able to have intimate conversations with the Guyanese president, laying the groundwork for future business opportunities. For the DBS News World, I am Zin Romulus.
In Grenada, newly launched Caribbean Energy Chamber aims to bolster regional energy security and cooperation. Grenada Broadcasting Network has the details.
A newly formed Energy Chamber has a keen interest in an engineering pilot program between Grenada and Trinidad and Tobago. The Chamber's chair, Melanie Chan, officially launched the entity at Guyana's Energy Conference and Supply Chain Expo 3 weeks ago. Chan said the Chamber will serve as a hub for uniting all energy stakeholders in the Caribbean. As part of its initial efforts, the Caribbean Energy Chamber will focus on key areas such as energy efficiency and public awareness, along with technical capacity rollout for the pilot project.
Places more in the southern Caribbean where there's a lot of, say, engineers, but basic engineers, registered engineers, in the OCS and further up the islands, they have a deficit. Even Barbados, actually, funny enough, is graduating about 50 engineers, but they don't have enough jobs in Barbados. So what we're trying to do is work with the CARICOM sort of engineering society, to help move some of the engineering from some of the areas where we have, more engineers to some of the regions where we're not. So one of the places where we identified was Grenada. Grenada, even though it doesn't have a producing, side of it, it still has a need for engineers to help it roll out its energy resilience planning.
The CEC is being established for greater global recognition of the energy crisis faced by the Caribbean and to prioritize net zero energy security for the region. The Chamber's membership will include companies and individuals from the Caribbean and around the globe.
The prospective board members that we know that we would try to get, it ranges from Barbados, Dominica, St Lucia, Pan-Caribbean, because a couple of them are Pan-Caribbean, one Trinidadian.
The Chamber, Chan notes, will work tirelessly to drive significant contributions to national and regional development and advocate for sustainable, efficient and accessible energy solutions to ensure an affordable net zero future for the Caribbean. The new Pan-Caribbean Chamber is a non-profit, non-partisan and independent organization. Christelina John, GBN News.
We now bring you these international reports.
There have been further Russian attacks on Ukrainian cities as Kyiv marks the second anniversary of President Putin's full-scale invasion. For a second night running, targets in the port city of Odessa have been hit, killing one person. 3 others were seriously injured. The anniversary has been marked by a meeting of the UN Security Council, which was told by the Secretary-General that the conflict was an open wound at the heart of Europe. The EU Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen has praised the extraordinary resistance of the people of Ukraine as she arrived in Kyiv. She was travelling alongside the Prime Minister of Italy, seen here, as well as Canada and Belgium. Well, Vincent McAvenny has this report.
2 years on from the biggest attack on a European nation since the Second World War, the UK is marking the anniversary by reaffirming its commitment to Ukraine. The government has pledged an additional £245 million towards producing artillery shells for Ukraine and announced further sanctions on Russia. The Prime Minister stating Britain is prepared to do whatever it takes for as long as it takes to help Ukraine achieve victory. Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer has also said President Vladimir Putin's cowardice and barbarity would not prevail. But it's faltering US funding which is stalling Ukraine's efforts, something the Foreign Secretary is pushing at the UN in New York.
Thank you.
If we allow this brutal dictator in Europe to redraw boundaries by force, to invade other countries and to get away with it, no country will be safe. And we know from our history that if we allow that to happen, the cost when we eventually have to intervene and stop them is so much greater.
A $60 billion military aid package is currently being blocked in Congress by far-right Republicans. But President Biden is determined to continue support.
Remember, the United States pulled together a coalition of more than 50 nations to support Ukraine. We unified and expanded NATO. We can't walk away now. And that's what Putin is betting on. He's betting on we're going to walk away.
Thank you so much for seeing us. I know how busy you are.
Thank you so much. President Zelensky is expected to take part in a virtual meeting with G7 leaders later today. For much of the past 2 years, he's lobbied leaders, parliaments and peoples around the world for their support. Whilst morale might now be faltering both at home and abroad for the president, it's clear the Ukrainian people, despite the destruction and loss of the past 2 years, aren't ready to give up their country. Vincent McAviney, BBC News.
Well, I'm joined now by David Fisher, the head of the delegation for Ukraine at the International Federation of the Red Cross. Thanks for joining us here on BBC News. David, you're in Kyiv at the moment. You have worked throughout this conflict. I want to begin by asking you where you see things for the humanitarian situation 2 years on.
Thank you for the opportunity. The needs are still very high. This is still an ongoing humanitarian emergency. Almost half of Ukrainians are still in urgent need of food, of medical assistance, of employment support. There have been huge mental health impacts, as you can imagine, from the constant threats of bombardment, mostly around the front, but also elsewhere in the country, even here in Kyiv. 4 out of 5 people report some kind of mental trauma. Many people are affected even far from the front lines because of the impact on the economy and the overall sort of displacement that has happened afterwards, including for basic health services. So we still see a very strong level of humanitarian need here in the country.
And David, how does this impact your teams who are working on this ongoing conflict as well? I mean, I was reading that you visited the team in Kharkiv recently. Just tell us more about that visit.
Sure. Yeah. So we visited the team in their small office. The windows are still boarded up. They told us, in the early days, how frantic it was. Armored cars rolling just in front, bombs falling, shrapnel coming into the windows. Their entire team sleeping on the floor of their operations center night after night. 2 years on, they're still working very, very hard. They told me they're tired, but they cannot be tired. They're there to help their communities, and we've seen this with volunteers for the Ukraine Red Cross Society around the country, this real determination to help their communities to cope.
And what is the new normal for so many people in Ukraine? I mean, we now hear about everyone knowing where their shelter is, having to deal with strikes that still continue, even though in some ways global attention has dimmed on this.
That's certainly true. People have found ways to cope. Some of them are good and some of them are not so good. With constant air-raid sirens, sometimes people run for shelter, sometimes they don't. Many children are still out of school. This is years on because they had the same experience after COVID. There's only a third of children who are back in school. Many people have now run through their savings. This is true both for displaced people, but also people who have fled the country in other parts of Europe. And so even as in many ways the conflict has become slower in its big changes, the individual emergency for many people is getting higher. Where can they get employment? Where can they get sort of essential support?
The Attorney General's office in the U.S. state of Alabama has said it has no intention of prosecuting fertility clinics or the families that use them, following last week's ruling by the state Supreme Court that frozen embryos be considered children. Many IVF providers have halted treatments while they assess the ruling, and some Alabama senators have said they will introduce legislation to protect the industry. The frontrunner for the Republican presidential nomination, Donald Trump, emphasized his support for the treatments.
I strongly support the availability of IVF for couples who are trying to have a precious little beautiful baby. I support it. And today I'm calling on the Alabama legislature to act quickly to find an immediate solution to preserve the availability of IVF in Alabama, and I'm sure they're going to do that.
Our North America correspondent Numia Iqbal has more details.
There is still ongoing shock, anger and confusion here in Alabama. People are trying to grapple with what this Supreme Court ruling means. Alabama is a deeply conservative state. It has restrictive reproductive rights. And I spoke to two lawyers. Politically, they have different views, but both of them had children via IVF. And they're worried about the direction in which Alabama is heading.
I understand people looking at it from the outside are probably curious that how did we become a state where if you want to terminate a pregnancy, you have to leave the state, and if you want to initiate a pregnancy via IVF, you have to leave the state. It's like we find ourselves in this weird position where we're forcing some women to have the children they don't have, and we're preventing other women from having the children they want. And, you know, without going too far into all of that and what's right and wrong, it is, you're right, it's a very interesting situation, and we have to figure it out, and while at the same time ask ourselves, how in the world did we end up in this place?
The biggest concerns are that people forget about us, and they don't think about us because we're just Alabama and we're just a conservative state that, you know, it's just, oh, we're all country bumpkins, don't worry about them, it'll never happen here, and the next thing you know, it's happening in other states that are ultra-conservative.
Now, at the moment, there is a bill that has been proposed by Democratic lawmakers in Alabama which aims to protect IVF. There are Republicans here who want to get on board, but it's a tricky situation for them to navigate because there are groups in the state which are very conservative. They describe themselves as pro-life and they back the Supreme Court ruling. But then there are groups who are also conservative and describe themselves as pro-life who say that this ruling has gone too far and describe it as extreme. So it's a case of trying to balance both of those opinions. But I think there is a sense, certainly for Republicans here, that there could be a political backlash, which is especially significant in an election year.
The Mexican government's used state media to launch an online attack spot against the New York Times bureau chief, whose questions the president objected to.
You're phonies from the New York Times, and whoever sent you to do this report.
In his televised morning press conference, the president also read the bureau chief's cell phone number aloud from a letter she'd sent his team asking for comment for an upcoming article. That in particular has sent alarm bells ringing here. Just to put this into context, Mexico's one of the most lethal countries for journalists in the world, where they receive attacks not just from criminals, but from authorities themselves. Free speech groups say it sets a dangerous precedent.
The vast majority of death threats in Mexico are sent to reporters via WhatsApp, via Facebook Messenger and other such applications. And as such, local officials in Mexico could use the president's actions as a justification for their own actions and basically no longer have any prior restraint to continue this.
The president's revealing of the journalist's number was actually illegal if she wasn't asked for her permission first, the head of the country's Access to Information Institute told us.
We all have to abide by the law. If the law establishes that I cannot disclose a telephone number or personal data that was collected in the exercise of my powers, then why am I disclosing it? You would have to justify why this disclosure was made.
The president was later asked if he was responsible should anything happen to her in a country where more than a dozen journalists were killed in 2022.
No, don't exaggerate. If she's worried, she should change her number.
So what was the New York Times article about? The day after the president's tirade, it was published. It reports that US officials spent years looking into allegations that allies of President López Obrador took money from drug cartels. But there's no smoking gun, and the president himself was never accused of taking any cash. The article also states the US never began a formal investigation. But now, instead of talking about the pros and cons of the piece, the news is of another journalist at risk, this time after the actions of the head of state. John Holman, Al Jazeera, Mexico City.
The Dow and S&P 500 eked out record highs again on Friday, as artificial intelligence stocks had enough muscle to nudge the indexes higher. The Dow gained more than 0.1%, the S&P ticked up marginally, while the Nasdaq shed nearly 0.3%. AI poster child NVIDIA advanced again and briefly traded above $2 trillion in market valuation for the first time. A day earlier, NVIDIA's blowout earnings propelled the AI chipmaker to add $277 billion in stock market value, Wall Street's largest ever daily gain. And while it often helps propel other big tech shares, Eric Lynch, managing director at Scharf Investments, says investors need to separate NVIDIA from other companies when it comes to AI mania.
And what I mean by that is NVIDIA is generating massive improvements in profits and revenue and year over year, but the rest of the IT market's really not growing. The S&P 500's IT sector in 2023, the aggregate revenue grew just 2%. Accenture, which is the global leading IT integrator and consultancy, basically gave guidance for the first quarter of 24 as only kind of flat revenue year over year.
Shares of Apple, Tesla, and Meta platforms, which all gained on the back of NVIDIA's earnings, fell on Friday. Shares of Supermicrocomputer, another beneficiary of the AI rally, dropped nearly 12% after the server component maker priced its convertible notes. Among other movers, shares of Warner Brothers Discovery shed nearly 10% after reporting a bigger-than-expected quarterly loss. Shares of Block, led by Twitter founder Jack Dorsey, jumped 16% after the payments firm forecasted adjusted core earnings for the current quarter above Wall Street estimates. And Carvana surged 32% after reporting its first-ever annual profit, helped by its pact with bondholders to cut its outstanding debt by $1 billion.
You were listening to the Midday News on WINN FM 98.9. The headlines: St Kitts and Nevis citizen named in £5 billion Bitcoin fraud case in the UK. St Kitts and Nevis AG talks continuing international due diligence unit in response. St. Lucia business leaders meet Guyanese president. In Grenada, newly launched Caribbean Energy Chamber aims to bolster regional energy security and cooperation. Internationally, on the Ukraine war, Russia attacks as Kyiv marks 2 years since Putin's invasion. Thank you for listening.
That was the WINN FM Headline News. The Headline News was brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, The Grange, and Caribou.
With over a century of perfection behind the Mackeson name, a smooth blend with perfect balance and richness, it's no wonder Mackeson Triple Stout has a legacy of perfection. Enjoy the world over. Introducing our new look with the same great taste. Mackeson. All hail the king.
Please drink responsibly.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com. When it comes to the important things in life, your health, your education, your choice of a life partner, and of course your insurance provider, only the best will do. Caribbean Alliance Insurance is the only insurance company in the Eastern Caribbean with an A excellent rating. We have a robust 3-tier reinsurance strategy that protects our policyholders from multiple catastrophes, even if they occur in quick succession. We spread our risks over 18 territories, ensuring minimal impact to individual territories when a disaster strikes. We provide an excellent claims experience. Claim settlement is usually between 24 to 48 hours. Our A excellent rating means that you are more secure with us. Contact us for motor, property, marine, public liability, employer's liability, and other policies. Dalil Walwyn, people you can trust. Local agent for Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Tomorrow secured.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. WINN FM.
People make the world go.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com. When it comes to the important things in life, your health, your education, your choice of a life partner, and of course your insurance provider, only the best will do. Caribbean Alliance Insurance is the only insurance company in the Eastern Caribbean with an A excellent rating. We have a robust 3-tier reinsurance strategy that protects our policyholders from multiple catastrophes, even if they occur in quick succession. We spread our risks over 18 territories, ensuring minimal impact to individual territories when a disaster strikes. We provide an excellent claims experience. Claim settlement is usually between 24 to 48 hours. Our A excellent rating means that you are more secure with us. Contact us for motor, property, marine, public liability, employer's liability, and other policies. Dalil Walwyn, people you can trust. Local agent for Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Tomorrow secured.
Found the sound. 98.9. WINN FM.
People make the world go round.
Welcome back to the second half of Inside the News here on WINN FM. I'm German Abel, sitting in today in the hot seat, and we are discussing a number of topics today here on the program, including the report that you heard earlier about the holder of the St Kitts and Nevis passport who, was caught up in a scandal in the UK, and the matter is currently before the court. But that individual is allegedly on the run from the police there. So, what more can we do to bolster the program? And the comments that came up earlier was that most of these people most of the people who are being caught are purportedly or allegedly committing these acts after they would have gained the citizenship. So is it right for the authorities to flag St Kitts and Nevis' program, even though the due diligence would have found that these people had no red flags in their background checks? But before we continue the program, let us acknowledge our partners, and then when we come back, we'll go full steam ahead and take more calls because the phone lines are going off the hook.
TDC Financial Services, we're here for you to help you make your dreams come true. Whether your needs are big or small, we'll support you with them all. TDC Financial Services, we are strong. TDC Financial Services, this is where you belong.
TDC Financial Services, where money is made easy.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go
And we are back, and we go straight to the phone lines to hear from this caller. Good. We lost that caller there, but they can call back. So yes, we are discussing that. You will hear from the AG shortly. I know you heard it a little while ago, but just to reinforce the point, the AG was talking about the SID, which will be the agency that will be reporting to the government in terms of their approach. In terms of their approach to dealing with those people who are found within the CBI program. We go to the phone lines. Caller, good afternoon.
Yes, greeting, my brother.
Greetings.
Thanks for taking our call, Okay, give thanks to the information flowed in the first half. We realize every family make a sound there. So we want, it's Black Story Month, so we're going to say that so. She said, whether it is true, yes or not, we will sell by our own. So how you can say that, family? Find out if it's true. You can't say whether it is true, yes or not. That is not intelligent. Find out how the thing really go before you make them kind of statement that whether it is true, yes or not. So that means you don't care if it's false. What kind of thing that? And then you ask her the benefits of us coming together as a people, and she gone all the way in India. We are not Indians. We are not West Indians. We are an African continental people. And my brother, to answer your question, the benefits is plenty. Enough. The us who are dispersed, still dispersed, and our brothers and sisters from the continent, by night, The benefits is plenty, whether it is done people, or whether it is done governmental. Yeah? The benefits are not too much to mention, because the naked truth is we are an African people. And this thing about them don't like us and them see us as Westerners and foolishness, that is not right across the board. Yes, we have some people from the continent who think them with it, but that is not right across the board. There's conscious people from the continent who know that their people was taken away and still scattered in the lands where it was taken away. Eh? So we cannot dismiss that and just look on the negative side with people who are negative, just like how we have these negative people out here calling themselves West Indians and Kittitians and Nivijans and Jamaicans and Trinidadians and all them foolishness here. Yeah? We have to keep the thing positive. And it is time for us to be in unison as an African people. Because when we dwell within unison, we will mash down all of the obstacles them in the way. Economically, politically, all of them. We will mash them down once we deal within unison as a continental people. The unity seems far-fetched, but we're going to get there. And the if we not go on, Bob Marley said enough more for dead. But people with certain mentality, certain African people with certain mentality, them for go away. Them for go away. Because there's obstacles in the way of the unity. The dire needed unity, there's obstacles because they keep coming with the negative things all the time when they hear about the African continent and the African struggle. Like we do, like it ain't real. It's real. And white supremacy is real too. And a lot of things we are seeing amongst our race. It was done by design.
Okay, so caller.
The conspire blind is yes, my brother.
Okay, so yeah, and I can feel the passion from your heart when we talk about this topic. But one of the issues that we have found in discussing this topic is the education and getting the message across to the people. How do you think we can do that? Because even as we try to bridge the gap, there's some pushback from different sections of society. And I'm just not talking about St Kitts and Nevis alone. I'm talking right across the Caribbean. We can see what is happening with the Haitians, for example. So in terms of getting people to understand the importance of building that quote-unquote, as you say, unity between Africa and the Caribbean, what more can we do to get the people to understand that?
It's a big task because of the mental enslavement, mental enslavement that is here and that is over there. But believe you me, it is not just here where we were scattered. Mental enslavement is, it is also over there on the continent. So we need to tackle that mental enslavement, get people out of that state of mentality, and the rest will be easy. Because listen to me, my brother. You see the chains and the shackles that they had on us, it was terrible. But you see the mental enslavement, we like to use a word that Mama Lou, our goddess poet, used regular. It is wasara. The mental enslavement is wasara. You can see it. It ain't a joke thing. When you have people who base our hue, denying the ancestral homeland. When you have people who be our hue, not connected upon the continent and not connecting with their brothers and sisters who were taken away, making some kind of ism be in the way of embracing their kith and kin. Is all the mental enslavement doing that? And when we get rid of this terrible mental enslavement, the rest will be good to go, we'll be good to go. Mental enslavement is not a pretty thing. We've seen it around us. We've seen it around us every day. Mental enslavement causing a whole heap of things, whole heap of isms to go on amongst we. Because we are not free in our mind as an African people. We're not thinking black. We're not living black. It's terrible. So I rest the case right there. Once we rid ourselves of mental enslavement, we are good to go. We are on the way to what you just said. Getting there. We are on the way to getting there, and we'll get there because the mental enslavement, once we get rid of that, the unison, the dire, needed, fundamental, touchable unison will be a reality. I will see how important and vital it is. Yeah? Just like other races of people. You know, see how them are unite, man? Look on them. Look on the Chinese people, them how them come with it and how them uniting with business, uniting with that kind of things I'm going through. Look, hey. Oh. Give thanks to the time, my brother. Blessed Lord.
Yeah, thanks, dear caller. Yes, so there you had that first caller after the break, and then we go to this caller. Caller, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Brother Joe, man. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Oh, not too bad. I just come from looking for the animals, them, you know.
You found them?
When I mean look for them, I just went to give them water and everything. That's what I mean look for them. They last really, but I went to look, see about them. See that they get food to eat, the water for drink and everything.
Okay.
Because they're untrained. Yes. Now, Brother Abel, let me tell you something. When you got these kind of talks, I want you to bring people like Eli and other black conscious Rasta, African, Pan-Africanists, and these programs. Because it's very interesting. Because I would like to know if the European, them went down to Africa and just started to take up the people, them just like that, without engaging no black African. The European, them went down there, take them up as slaves and bring them to the West Indies or bring them to whatever they want to branch them off in the world to do. I would like to know that. Because not unless the black people, them there was brainwashed. I forget the word. What the word name again, Lord? Because the uncivilized, they never know better. They were like animals, and they just put on and take them up and then bring them to the Caribbean and bring them to the different part of the world and let them out there to work as slaves. I want to know that. That is what I want to know. Because African is a black country. African full of so much minerals and gold, oil, all kind of things we want to. There's everything in Africa. And I want to know how come that these people went down there and just take up our people, our foreparents, and bring them and distribute them in a kind of different way. And as slaves. This is what we want to know. Because if nobody was there, no sensible African was there. Like a leader to tell them, no, you can't do my people that. You can't go and take up my people and go to my people just like that. So some black African never orchestrated behind these white men to come in Africa and take out these black people and go with them and make them a slave in whatever territory they put them into. I want to know that. And Brother Eli, you could call back and answer the question because this is what we want to know. All right then, Brother Joe, you take care.
All right, thanks, caller.
We will make the world go round.
Yes, as I promised, I do have the clip of the Attorney General, a bit of what you would have heard in the news. Yes, and I'll just play it. He was speaking with our good colleagues over at Freedom FM, and he basically was speaking about the CITD program, the CIT program, that will address the concerns surrounding those people within the Citizenship by Investment program who breach or are found to be involved in criminal activities after the due diligence process, and what the CIT program will specifically be doing for this particular initiative. But let me take this caller quickly, and then we'll hear from the Attorney General. Caller. Okay, we lost that caller. Caller, good afternoon.
Yeah, President, good afternoon, Brother Abel. This is Ras Kalonji.
Yeah.
The previous caller was asking basically how we get in this condition. It's conquest. We were conquered. War was waged on us, just like how the United States invaded Iraq, Panama. Now we got Russia invading Ukraine. Africa was invaded, and we were defeated in war. When they invaded Ethiopia, Italy invaded Ethiopia in 1896 at the Battle of Adwa. They lose. They invaded Ethiopia again in the Second World War with Mussolini, and they lost again. It's just that in the other part of Africa, we lost the war. We are conquered people. We are prisoners of war. We ain't selling nobody. So what you want to tell me? Right? Let's take India, for example. Did the Indians sell themselves? No, they were conquered by England. China was conquered by England. It's conquest. And we were made prisoners of war. We people got to understand this thing in its proper context. We are the only people who sell themselves. Did the native people here sell themselves? They were wiped out. Genocide was committed on them. We got to understand these things and stop anything our oppressors tell us. We internalize it and blame ourselves because that's the way they taught us. So what you want to tell me that nobody resisted? Queen Nzinga resisted in Angola. So much resistance you had, but what? We were defeated. And we were made prisoners of war. We people got to understand these things. The only way how we got to reconstruct ourselves here in the Western world, we have to put these things in the school. So when you go to school as a youth, you learn these things, how we get in this condition. You understand? It's a simple thing now. Our story is not in the school. Tell me now. This is the 128th anniversary, right? The 17th of this month, right? Is the 128th anniversary of the Portuguese rebellion in this country. How much people know that? Right? Look at the Buckles Uprising. Them things are national issues. But we people don't take them seriously because they don't know the history.
But caller, caller,
yeah, go ahead.
Yes, as you said that, whose responsibility it is, do you think, for not teaching the quote unquote history? Because some of it, and again, I'll just say a tip of it, is being taught in the high schools. And when I
but
say
you gotta start from kindergarten.
Yeah, but hold on, caller, hold on. What I'm saying is you have a tip of it because we know that the curriculum is limited in terms of how much can be taught, in a sense that you're limited for time, right? And when I say a tip of it, because we know the Caribbean history is general, for it speaks from the Bahamas up north all the way down to Suriname and Guyana in the south, right? Do you think it is now time for us to adopt an approach where we begin to also teach St Kitts and Nevis' history along with Caribbean history in the schools?
No, but what needs to be done, they got to create a separate entity other than the Caribbean history. You got to create a separate entity within the ministry to teach our local history. So, look, have you think that the black history in the schools and the universities in America? People rally for that. But when we bring up these issues as the Rastafari movement, our people don't gravitate to that. The government have to take the initiative to do these things. It's a simple thing. But what I'm trying to show you is that the people who are in control, right, if they don't make the effort to put our history in the schools, how come our people don't know about the Portuguese rebellion? The same thing what happened with the Buckley's uprising, right, in 1935, that our people wanted a higher wage. It's the same thing happened with the Portuguese rebellion. Joaquim Ferraro was the owner of Pans and Needmus, and the workers back there in 1896 asked for a higher wage, and he refused. And the Portuguese businesses was burned to the ground. No, I'm telling you, not even 1% of our people know that. So when you want to tell me, how come the United States, you got to know about George Washington, the founding fathers of the United States. How come we know who our founding fathers are? Matthew Sebastian, Mr. Wilkes, all these great people we had, Betta Douglas, Marcus of the Woods. We people don't know these things. But what I'm trying to show you, through the colonizer had us try so much that even when we get to power, even when we started to vote in 1952, right? When we people came to power, we didn't change these things. We continue along the line of the colonialists. So that's why we have all these problems. What do you think when we interact with each other, right, that we respond to each other in a particular way? It's because we're being colonized. Our mind needs to be decolonized. And we got to put a program in place to decolonize our people's mind. Imagine, take something like this, right? All our traditions, our religions were wiped out and replaced by a European way of life. The life that we live in today is not an African life, it's a European life because the values have been put on us. When we came here, we wasn't Christians in the sense of, in the Western way. Even Christianity come from Africa. You understand? We were indoctrinated into their culture. What do you think we have a Westminster system in Parliament? You understand? These things was indoctrinated into us. That's why we're where we are. Look how the opposition and the government respond to each other. So what you want to tell me is that I could oppose myself? As a people, what we went through, how come there's an opposition? Why should I oppose you? When all of us went through the same difficulties in terms of exploitation, discrimination, and white supremacy. We got to get on one page, and I'm saying the African Consciousness Movement is launching the movement for national unity and empowerment. Our people have to unify, because once we unify, Babylon down here. It's as simple as that's why they keep us divided. So what I'm saying to you, we got to check out the root cause that keep our people divided. This thing is historically documented. You understand? So once we deal, it's like a doctor. If you go to the doctor and you tell him what your problem is, he don't only examine you, he take a history of your family and stuff like that. And whatever your ailment is, he come up with a diagnosis to deal with it. So we have to come up with a diagnosis to deal with the problems that are affecting our people. You understand? I mean, okay, let me show you an example.
Okay, Carlo. 30 seconds. I have to take a break, and then I have to jump in the next segment.
The conflict between St Kitts and Nevis, in terms of, the always hear about Nevis wants secession from St Kitts. It didn't start with us. It started with the white people in Nevis wanted secession from the white people in St Kitts back in 1886, I think. But the people don't know, and the politicians continue the same divide. So I'm saying to our people, unity is the accepted goal. What Granny said, unity is the only solution to the pollution. What Granny said, buy local. What Granny said, support your own. What Granny said, plant weed for the cannabis industry. What Granny said, fall in, and if you don't fall in, you will bear the consequences what the man in Saddles bear back in 1935. Give thanks, one love.
People make the world go round.
All right, thanks, their caller. We slightly shifted away from what I wanted to talk about, but we have to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll continue with more of the discussion here on Inside the News.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. WINN FM.
This February, embark on a love affair with the road. TDC Financial Services presents Love Affair Car Loan Special. Fall in love with your dream car with loan terms up to 8 years, as low as 4.99% interest rate. And here's the sweet part. Enjoy the first 3 months with absolutely no repayments. Turn your dream car into reality with TDC Financial Services Love Affair Car Loan Special. Visit our branch on Central Street in St Kitts or Main Street, Charlestown, Nevis, or call us at TDC Financial Services today. Live the love affair with your new wheels with TDC Financial Services.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go
And we are back here on Inside the News. So we're going beyond the headlines to tell you how this is going to impact you here in St Kitts and Nevis and in your daily lives and activities. Like I promised, I want to just quickly hear from the Attorney General in a conversation, just a little excerpt in a conversation he had with Freedom. You would have heard it a bit in the news. So I just want to give you guys an insight just to hear in terms of what he had to say following on from the discussion that we had earlier.
You have asked me about a matter involving a St Kitts and Nevis citizen who is alleged to have committed financial crimes in the UK. What I can tell you is that the national security apparatus has a system when notification is received of incidents like this. The St Kitts and Nevis citizen, their passport can either be revoked and potentially a process can be started which could lead to the revocation of that person's citizenship. This has become an important international issue, and what the Ministry of National Security has done, as the Prime Minister has indicated at the most recent Prime Minister's press conference, is that the ministry has set up a continuing international due diligence unit, SID unit, which is going to be launched very soon, within the next few weeks, and will be led by a senior Kittitian law enforcement professional. And the purpose of that unit is to liaise with international organizations like Interpol, the FBI, CIA, etc., to be the channel for any information about St. Kitts and Nevis citizens living abroad who are alleged to commit any form of crime, whether it be local crimes in their particular country of residence or international monetary crimes, wherever that person is located, and then a investigation is conducted.
People make the world go round.
So yes, there you had it. That was a little from the Attorney General talking about the SID unit. And we go to the phone line. Caller, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon to you. Now, I'm calling concerning some stuff that I've heard. First of all, I think your radio stations, maybe unknowingly to you all, because you all dropped the ball a lot on this one, are entertaining some very vicious stuff that are being said. Vicious to the point of that if you don't agree with them, you are supposed to be eliminated.
Okay, hold on. I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. It may come over that way. And even you yourself also disagree with some of what the callers
I disagree, but I don't say people should be eliminated.
No. Hold on. Again, I think it's the context in which it is put over. But go ahead and make your point.
Yeah. Well, for example, Eli X, I think, said that, hey, if you don't agree, then you have to be getting out of the way. Something like that. He alluded to something like that. Maybe not in those specific words, but that was the meaning. And then Raskolonji come down and praised what happened to the man in 1935. And what had happened to that man? He refused to join the riot, and they beat him. They beat him up till when he died. And after that beating, he was affected for the rest of his life, and he died with the effects of the beating that he got. I think he got struck on the head with a pipe. And Kolonji is saying that is good. You know, praising that. That's what I'm saying. You all are dropping the ball on these things. Yes, we can disagree, but don't tell me because I don't agree with what you think is best for Africans and that sort of stuff that I'm supposed to be eliminated. Anybody is supposed to be eliminated, you know, and then you're going to go on and talk about democracy. Well, that is hypocritical. If you are saying that where your point of view is concerned, if people disagree with you, they ought to be beaten up or be eliminated or whatever, you know. So you all are entertaining some very dangerous stuff that are being said. No, unity for unity's sake is not necessarily good. There are bad unities. There is the right kind of unity where people are united around the Bible. That is true unity, because that is being united around the truth. All other unities are counterfeit, satanic counterfeit, and they are bad.
But caller, hold on. Let's take a step back, right? Mm-hmm. I get where you're coming from in terms of what you said just now, but also you have to also acknowledge that you are guilty sometimes, right? Hold on, in terms of your approach as well, because sometimes you call in, I allow you to make your points, but then you don't necessarily always agree with what the caller is saying, but then you also suggest that some of what the caller is saying is not the correct way, and then you go along a particular road as well. So I have to say, yes, the blame has to be shared across the board as well, and you as well have to take some of it as well.
No, there's a difference.
But hold on, right? Yeah, I'm just saying, because now you come on as well to say that, hey, you know, some of the religions and whatever it is not true and so forth. Right? And again, if we agree or we disagree, and I keep saying this every time I come on, you may not agree with something somebody say, you may not necessarily agree with what someone's belief is, but you cannot denigrate and or suggest that somebody's religion or point of view is a lie or whatever it is, because you do not necessarily agree with it, and you're going along that same route right now when you're talking about evil.
I'm not going along that same route. I agree. There's a vast difference between telling someone, hey, you're going down the wrong place, you're believing a lie. There's a vast difference between that and saying, hey, if you believe this, or if you don't agree with me, you're supposed to be eliminated, beaten or something like that. There's vast different categories. They're not the same.
Hold on. In your point of view, it might not be, right? But in the general context, it's in the same book and in the same hymn sheet. Technically, if we're going to go along that route to say, hey, this is what it is, right? Because and again, you're making the point that not because someone's point of view on something is different, right, that you should be, and this is just me saying it in layman terms, you don't have to agree with what the person is saying and that you support this. But in the same context, you also throw out to say, hey, this is what it is. You don't support the person's religious. You come with your religious point of view, and that's fine. That's your opinion, right? And you're expressing that opinion. But also, you cannot pull down someone's religion or point of view because you do not necessarily support that. Make your point now.
Well, but even if you said that, on what rationality or logical basis can you say that is in the same group, same category as calling for people to be killed or to be beaten up or something like that? How can they be logically and rationally be in the same category?
I'm not saying that that's what the suggestion was, but I'm saying that this is not the same point of view. From my point of view, the person has not necessarily directly called for anyone to be eliminated. That if that's the suggestion, I take responsibility. But at the end of the day, they're all in the same boat. Now, can we go to the topic?
How come logically? How come
Let's go to the topic. Caller, hold on. Can we go to the topic at hand now? Because we're not going to get anywhere with this suggestion back and forth. So can we go to the topic now?
Yeah, but also would like to say that we need to be very honest with history. We need to be very honest with history. Africans sold Africans. And they sold them for guns, textiles, dyes, things made from factory, that sort of stuff. Africans sold Africans from. And not only did they sell Africans to the Europeans, they kept back most of the captives for them to be their own slaves. Europeans did not go into Africa, with the rare exceptions of Portugal Europeans did not go into Africa to take out Africans. Africans captured Africans and sold them for rum and all sort of stuff to the Europeans. And we must be honest, Richard. That is why Southern Africans have apologized, because the records are there. The records are there by the kingdoms and the tribes and the sort of as to who they captured and who they sold and who they kept back and that sort of stuff. And now it hurts, but the truth is the truth. And not only that, as the Bible shows you, the reason why nations go into such thing as slavery and those sort of stuff is because of disobedience to the word of God. And that was also true of Africans. They disobeyed the word of God, but in large part, and God punished them with slavery and all sort of stuff. But Africans is not unique. It happened to all nations as well. You read it in the Bible. When nations disobeyed the word of God in God's name, He destroyed them. He enslaves them and that sort of stuff. So these are and that is why I come back to always saying we will not solve our problems unless we first biblically repent and start to obey the Bible. That is when we would enjoy the blessings of God. And this Christianity, and concerning Christianity, some slaves came over as Christians because Christianity was established even in West Africa long before the slave trade started.
Hold on. I think you're addressing that, and the caller did acknowledge that as well, right? I'll give you 30 seconds because I have another call. I have to take one more break before we wrap, but I'll give you 30 seconds to wrap.
Yeah. 30 seconds, I'd like to use it by saying, hey, we cannot solve any of our problems apart from the Bible. Only the Bible has the answer. And in addition, if we die outside of Jesus Christ, we're going to end up in hell for all eternity. Only the blood of Jesus Christ could save us from hell. Only the Bible could give us the answers to all of our problems. Only the Bible alone has the solutions to all our issues in life and problems in life. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
in
caller.
Jesus' name. Thank you.
Thanks. Yes, so that caller was sharing a religious perspective of the issue of the whole Africanism and so forth. Yes, so today we're discussing the issue of, and we slightly drifted away from the actual topic at hand, which specifically was the CBI program as well as, and we had one other topic, but yeah, we slightly drifted away to talk about Africanism and bridging the gap between Africa and the Caribbean and how best we can, connect the two. We go back to the phone line. Caller, good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon, brother. How are you doing?
I'm well.
What position you hold in the ring?
I'm the referee.
But you're doing a good job. You're doing a good job refereeing. Anyway, good afternoon to all the listeners at home and abroad. Our God still reign, Now, let me ask a question. This thing they're setting up, is it just to deal with those who acquired citizenship? Or does it include the born Kittitians?
No, it's just to investigate and monitor those people who would have the economic citizens of St Kitts and Nevis.
I was wondering
because it's the due diligence unit.
Kittitians abroad in U.S. prison, we don't hear anything at all about them.
Well, that once you have a U.S. citizen involved in a criminal matter or so forth, that would have to be the embassy representative in that particular jurisdiction will keep in touch and monitor that individual and ensure that
I wonder, do they do it? I always wonder,
That's a good question. That's more
sometimes
of a question.
You only see them when they're ready to deport them, Anyway, now, good afternoon, Kalanje. If we're serious about educating our people, we must give them the truth. What Greg said the truth, he's talking about 19-something and 1880. We're talking about the Atlantic slave trade and the Arab slave trade, which occurred even before they mark up any map. It's just like how the Jews, everybody doing it, they were capturing tribes when they want wives or when they want more labor. This is what's going on.
Miss Henry, I understand that. And
no, so what I'm saying is this, right? To deny that they traded us. Maybe when we say sell, people thinking money. They traded us.
The thing about this, the whole discussion surrounding Africanism.
Well,
and I
can't deny the truth, eh?
Well, this is what I'm saying, right? I don't think, and you can criticize me for saying this, but I think a caller particularly made a point earlier. A discussion like this would require a proper historian to give a contextual perspective.
But the facts are there. It is too painful to swallow.
It's too painful to swallow, indeed.
It is too painful.
But the thing is, right, Ms. Henry, is the facts, because you were raising something. One of the callers raised it as well. Kalantri raised the perspective that he came from in terms of, different sides. So for me, as being the quote-unquote referee in the ring, it would be fair to get someone who has studied this to give us a factual perspective, because...
But the facts are there, right there. Right there.
This is the thing, right? This is me, right, Miss Henry, and I'm coming from a journalistic perspective. Miss Henry may say, okay, this is what we know, this is what history has taught us. Someone is going to come and say, okay, this is what I know.
They say, that is what the white man said. Hello?
Exactly. So
they have the black history is there.
The black history is
now,
there.
With the
right?
But the Portuguese thing you're talking about, it started in Old Road.
But hold on, Miss Henry. What I'm saying is, from a journalistic perspective, I like to come and give people the facts, whether or not it supports one side or the other side, right? I want people to get the understanding from a particular source, a credible source, to say, listen, this is what it is, and we put that argument to rest. That's how I go about doing things, right? Because if 50 callers call in, 20 it's gonna be 50%, 25, that will say it from a different perspective.
Yeah, so, and it would be even better if our people take the time to study, investigate, research. We have an archive down there with information in it.
That's
you understand? Now, I was talking about the Arab African Union, and they raised the same issues like what we have in CARICOM. I listened to a number of the videos, and they were complaining about the African countries are more concerned about their sovereignty than unity. They talk about the different conventions, like how we have signed them in CARICOM, and then when we reach back home, They said a number of conventions have been signed by the African Union, but they're not being implemented.
But yes, and that's...
They even spoke about the trade, African free trade in Africa.
Yes.
And
I want to ask you a
movement.
question on that, right?
They're signing all of those,
I want to ask you a question on that note.
Go
right?
ahead.
We'll have this discussion for 2 minutes, right? Because we're running out of time. I want to have this discussion for 2 minutes. As we discuss this and talk about this whole issue of the free trade and all of that and the individualism of territories right in the Caribbean and in Africa.
Yeah.
Do you think that it is the lack of education that is allowing for this pushback? Because what I've come to realize is that even if, let's say, St Kitts and Nevis signs a particular treaty or whatever, right, at the CARICOM level, when you come back, you're getting pushback from the people within your country, and just using St Kitts as an example, that it's not allowing for the full unity and unification within CARICOM, for example.
Well, sometimes they don't even come back and tell you. It's only when somebody challenge. You understand how you might be in a certain government ministry where you have to talk about CARICOM, and then you learn, and sometimes you're shocked, but you see what happened. Ignorance is bliss to some people. And when you keep the people ignorant, they're easy to control. Because take free movement, for example. Somebody on the radio were talking about somebody came from Windward Island, I think it's the AG. They came, must the Monday, and by Wednesday they were working. And some people don't know where one economy, the OECF.
I think that was probably the premier because he spoke.
They hear it, but they don't believe it. How could have come and go and go work? How they could that? Well, even I remember one time traveling. You're supposed to be able to use a driver's license, so, right?
Mm-hmm.
You going into Antigua, they want to see a passport. I believe St. Kitts does the same thing too. Yes. Mine, they see the passport,
I think what happens. is it's lack of education and training. Sometimes you may tell someone something and they stick to the T, knowing very, very well that they can be a bit flexible.
People impose their personal prejudice. If you're an immigration officer, you're supposed to know these things. Look what happened in Barbados. If you go in as a Jamaican and a Guyanese, I've been to Barbados a couple of times. From the time you show up, I mean, it's like you come from Mars. You know, the disrespect. As if everybody trying to run away to their country. But these are the same one who, when they get together and they eat and they drink, in CARICOM we have free movement, which movement? The same thing in Africa.
But you see with that, right, it comes back to continuous education.
The leaders are not educated. Look, they have educated. Because do they stand up when somebody in that situation has been abused? No. If a Guyanese come here, because a lot of Guyanese here, my son married to one. Free movement. Before they even finish their 6 months, they're ready for you, They're ready for you. So.
But you see, and you raise a valid point.
So when I hear them talk, we can unite black people. No, that is why my good friend introduced the element of force. You either comply or you do like how they do in Russia and things. They send you to education camp or they send you in Siberia. That is what he's thinking. But if you got a set of people who can't express themselves, whether they're for or they're against, then you are not safe as a leader, Better you let them talk so you know where they're coming from. But this force, but I am calling upon our people. The truth is painful. They didn't sell us like they get money. They got things for it. When the British began to bring the ironworks, they used them. They were glad for the guns, either to capture the Africans. I mean, it's a fact. Okay. So we come and tell you see, if they tell us the truth, even the same thing. Okay. You have the CVQ, right?
Yeah.
The CARICOM vocational certificate.
Miss Henry, 30 seconds.
Yes.
Really out of time, and my producer's telling me.
All right, now the people come here with it. You are kind of uproar. And the people here won't go for it. And our leaders don't stand up for the people who came here with it. Instead of make excuses, you provide opportunity and they don't want it. So what you must do? All of you who feel you could force people into some kind of false union where we are being dominated by another African, you might as well shoot us.
Okay.
All right then.
All right, thanks, Ms. Henry. Well, there you had it. That was today's edition of Inside the News. Yes, today's edition of Inside the News. It was good. We were discussing the issue of the CBI program. Yes. As well as we started a bit on the resolution, where we ended up on Africanism. Yes, we had some, as usual, disagreements, which is the platform for us to disagree, agree, but we come to we find solutions and hold discussions on critical issues that benefit you, and we seek to go beyond the headlines and just discuss, politics. But here on Inside the News, we go beyond the headlines to educate you, to get you to better understand issues and topics that are impacting you in your daily lives. We don't just discuss politics, because politics at the end of the day do not solve your problems. So, with that being said, it was nice spending the day with you. Do join us again on next week Saturday. Not sure I'll be here next week Saturday, so if I am, until then, it's goodbye. If not, I know you'll be in good company. Until then, do enjoy the rest of your day and the weekend.